I renounce Satan and his works, and his pomps, and his service, and his angels, and his inventions, and all things that belong to him or that are subject to him. I renounce Satan and his works, and his pomps, and his service, and his angels, and his inventions, and all things that belong to him or that are subject to him. I renounce Satan and his works, and his pomps, and his service, and his angels, and his inventions, and all things that belong to him or that are subject to him. Confusing order with destiny, discouraging healthy thinking, while the mind is at ease, the soul is distressed. The mother sets her hand before the soul. All right. Welcome to the Good Godfather channel stream. My name's Xwan. We're going to deal with some things going on in my life, big changes coming. I am officially converting to Orthodoxy, and some of you people are like, John, I thought you were already Orthodox. I did get that text message already. John, I thought you were already Orthodox. No, man, I wasn't fully Orthodox because I had a lot of things that were holding me back that I'm going to get into. We'll get into here today, but those are no longer an issue, and all of the stops are gone. Orthodoxy. Time for Orthodoxy, and we're going to get into that. But before we do, I really want to talk about my friend's daughter. Her name is Faith. Is not doing very well. You can read all about it over here. A guy I was in a band with before, his name's John Marr. Brilliant guy. He's been on a bunch of TED Talks. He's a very active person, has no fear of a public image or public portrayal. And we were trying to be rock stars together at one point. So he's that kind of guy. And he is struggling to provide for his daughter who has Down syndrome, has been in and out of the hospital, and they've been there. So we wanted to put together a fundraiser for them, just because to show our support and show our love for them. Dear friend of mine. So please go share now
go ahead and drop link in the comments. Everybody, go and support them. Really do. Humble guy. He would never ask for help. This was not his idea. He would much rather just bite the bullet, of course, and stay humble and quiet and not ask for anything and struggle in his own way on his own. But we don't want to let him do that. We want to take care of our brother. He's a brother to me, and hope that you will support him and show him care about him. So that being said, you can also support myself in this project. This is not explicitly, or I mean, I guess it is explicitly, but it's not solely a theological project. This is an art project. Good Godfather. I'm the lead singer of my band, Good Godfather. My brainchild. And go over to our website, sign up on our email list, be the first to get notifications about anything we're doing. If you are looking to book us for any dates, click up here on the booking link. We've got merch and here. What this link is supposed to do. Oh, I think I was writing like gear reviews or talking about my gear. Something along those. Where you can go click on our link tree. It's got all of our links. You can check out our Spotify. Our recent song, Lord God, is actually out. You don't need to pre-save that anymore. It's available for streaming on all outlets: Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, iTunes, you name it. You can support us on any of these channels. back.by/Good Godfather. We've got a PayPal you can donate to. Patreon you subscribe to. Venmo you can donate to. Bandcamp where you can buy and stream some things. What's not up here? Got back by Gumroad. goodgodfather.gumroad.com is where you can go to pre-save. I pray you. I really want to do vinyl cuts of this LP that I've been working on for a really long time and been crafting for a long time. So hope you will go over. Check that out. And help me fund that project. That would be great. Putting together music and production lessons. I haven't started the whole process of setting up those lessons, but that's something that you buy from me. As well as my time in the studio. You know, if anybody's out there wants some studio work done, needs some guitar, I'm a guitar player, bass. That I know people are always usually looking for a vocalist. I haven't really done much with vocals, but I got a new vocal machine that I hope to be playing with pretty soon and documenting that. And we'll talk about that, and I'll be patching that in here. But really just wanted to talk about my story here today. What it's going to mean going forward for this project. I don't know exactly what's going to stay the same or what's going to change. This project has been instrumental to the process of my spiritual development. So it would be interesting to, if it were something that I had to abandon or could no longer be a part of, and why that would be the case. You might say to yourself, Sean, you can do whatever you want. And I say, yeah, I know I can. And I probably got nothing to be all that too concerned about. when it comes to my creativity and being an artist musician. I now am a music instructor. I do teach music independently, privately, do private lessons for people in partnership with Dactyl Guitars. And but I support myself all 100% independently. I depend on viewers like you to actually go out and spend some dough and check out the material that I have to share and be in touch and be involved. But this has not been 100% just a music project either. It hasn't just been an artistic project. It's been a theological project. It's been a political project. I've been engaged in the political discussion since I started this. I wanted to be holistic. I wanted to not compartmentalize myself into all these different sections, and it was just so schizophrenic the way that people are expected to operate, and I can't operate that way. I've got all these things come together for me. They're all connected. Nothing is, family is related to spirituality, is related to politics, is related to business, economics, markets, marketing, communication, entertainment. Those things, we cover all those things here. And so, whereas that might seem schizophrenic to other people, I see the compartmentalization as being like multi-personality, split personality disorder, where you've got to, okay, now I'm this guy. Hi, how are you today? Now I'm the guy at the counter. I'm the parts salesman. Counter. Hi, how are you doing today? Oh, was that part late in for your truck that was supposed to be in for servicing today? Well, I'm very sorry about that, sir. We'll get that right on that. We'll make sure that it's here right on time for your Okay, now I go home and I'm like, these Satanists! Can't yell at Satanists when I'm at the parts counter. But you should be able to, because that's where they are. They're out in public, hiding shadows. Nobody knows where I'm at. Nobody knows what's going on. So, I abandoned that way of thinking a long time ago, that I would have to compartmentalize what I think about. I mean, I do think, obviously, out of decorum, I mean, it's good to bring yourself down, to humble yourself in situations like that in order to be of service to other people, because it's not all about you. It's not about your life and what you're going through, and relationships and trust is built over time, for long periods of time. And parts counter, you're not hanging out with people trying to facilitate and change transaction, but then it comes down to the way that you're interacting with people that you work next to. Sorry. That should be better. Yeah. Styling in my noise gate there. So, so that's how this project got put together, is just to allow myself the freedom just to express myself, to be creative. I'm not just into being creative. I'm into the technicality of the process of recording, of a signal chain on a guitar pedal flow. I built pedals for a number of years and did demo videos. So I like to do demo videos of pedals, and I like to think about economies and the and commerce and marketing and things like that. But I like to do it all in the lens that I'm a Christian and I'm a devoted Christian, and Christianity is I'm a serious Christian who takes his faith really seriously, who takes the Bible really seriously. I'm a believer and always have been. And Jesus Christ has meant everything to me. God the Father has been a father to me. I was raised by a single mom, and I only say that because it's true, and I know that my mom probably doesn't like me talking like that, but it's true. I was raised by a single mom. She did have a hard time, and she had a hard time because I see her as a victim of a system that was against her, built to destroy her. And she took the Kool-Aid, and I think she would say that. I think she would admit to that. But I haven't had a relationship with my mom in a long time. I don't know where she's at, or know what she's up to, or anything. I've been on my own now for a little while now, and it has everything to do with the faith and how seriously we took it, and how seriously, I take it seriously because my mom took it seriously, and I feel like my mom took it seriously because I took it seriously. And then we ended up kind of not hanging out because of some differences that arose. And it's very indicative of the climate of religious discourse, Christian discourse, Christianity, theology, spirituality, and what all these things mean, how we feel about them, how they affect us, how they change us. Can humans change? And so, yeah. Let me just go over my story to say that I was not raised in a Christian home. My mom wasn't a Christian when I was born. I lived with my mom, who lived with her mom at the time. She was mid-20s when she had me, and I was her firstborn. I'm the firstborn son. And religion in our household was sort of, it had been said in my house that religion was a crutch. Like, religion is for weak people who just can't face reality, the reality of the nothingness of the universe. And that's not to say they were blatant atheists. Like, my grandma wasn't a diehard atheist, but my grandpa apparently wasn't either, I guess. I don't know. I think he definitely floundered in his faith, if he had any. And I say if he had any because I don't know if he had any at all. And that just provided an atmosphere of cynicism. It was a very cynical environment. And I did have other relatives that were on other points of the spectrum. I had some that were militant atheist socialist, like full-on Marxists, who were 100% anti-religion, anti-Christianity, who lived in the same household as people that were devout Christians. And a lot of credit to my Aunt Kathy, who is the first seed of faith in Christianity in general in my life at my earliest memory of Christianity. It's 100% associated with my Aunt Kathy, because my mom did take us to like Christmas pageant type stuff at the church that we're going to, which was an Alliance Bible Fellowship. So from very early on, my engagement and my connection to it's so ironic too, because I'll get into why it's ironic. Alliance Bible Fellowship is a charismatic church. It comes out of the charismatic movement, i.e. Azusa Street, Pentecostal fundamentalism, Assemblies of God, that kind of thing. Though that wasn't the association with the church. Like we never saw any of that. That wasn't like, that was other churches for some reason outside of Alliance Bible Fellowship. If you don't know Alliance Bible, famously, A.W. Tozer's church. I don't know if you had anything to do with founding it or starting it or anything, but A.W. Tozer's the guy there. Most common affiliation association, obviously most famous, I would say. And but all the same, my experience of Christianity has been, until now, pretty much exclusively a sort of evangelical, definitely Protestant, fundamentalist, charismatic form of Christianity. Some more so than others, right? But I've been to a lot. It started there, and then as time went on, we ended up at a babysitter's home fellowship church, right? Because there was that. So that was something I got a taste of, which is that home church thing where, Christians gather in homes and they eat cookies and share a meal together, and that's Christianity. And there's a beautiful element to that. That is a beautiful thing. Like, it's not something I scoff at. It's something that I cherish, really, and something that I think that is not outside the bounds of Orthodoxy. I mean, Orthodoxy has their official services of divine liturgy, but they also promote, like the whole, is it supra that people are talking about? There's what is it? What's this? What's a supar or something like that? Supra? What's it called? Everybody's talking about this. Yeah. I keep getting these stupid spam comments on Twitch. Anyway, it's like, after church meal, and you hang out with people, and love feast concept. So, but I was too young to really understand anything. I was a very inquisitive guy, though. I've always, even since childhood, I was always asking questions. People would be very annoyed with me asking questions. It was always 20 questions with me, and I would exhaust people with my questions, and I would exhaust my mom. So my first introduction to any form of theology is me asking a question like, why is the grass green? I'm pretty sure that was the question. Why is the grass green, Mom? Why is it green? And she said, I don't know, ask God. Which was awesome. That was a great thing for her to say. Because I did. I was like, God, what is that? Who is that? Who's God? What am I? What is that? Ask God. And might have heard the name Jesus here and there, and had a cultural affiliation with it. Definitely remember hearing the word Israel at a young age, and had an association with the Star of David, because I just like drawing the Star of David. I thought it was a cool shape, And so these words and concepts kind of floating around. It wasn't until hey, we got Thaddeus Thought. Thanks for coming by. Yeah, right. Annoying people because I asked questions that annoyed them. Yeah, I still do it to my wife now. Now my wife is she hates it because I don't have arguments. I just ask questions when there's a problem, because I've learned that you can't solve anything. They don't want to solve anything. You just have to walk through a line of reasoning. Well, what do you think that's about? What do you think that problem is? You know, all you can do is just ask questions. Anyway, yeah. Well, so anyway, that's so God, having to figure out God, and then there was a dark season. You know, my mom did not really believe in God. We didn't go to church or anything like that, but it was at the desperate point of her relationships falling apart. She couldn't maintain her relationship with the boyfriend that she had that was like my quasi stepdad, live-in stepdad. Lasted a couple of years, and then, but he had the most like foundational impact on me, not having a dad, you know, and he was a dad to me, even though he was only around for a couple of years. But he was the one that I think my mom loved truly more than anybody, and I think he loved her too. But they were both so toxic that they just couldn't keep it together. And so, but that when things did break down, that's when my mom was like, "Okay, I got to get to church." And do you know MBTI personality types? Yeah, I don't know that explicit type. No, I mean, and ENTPs like myself learn by trying to shred things. People think it's being closed, but it's a form of being open, actually. Yeah, I agree. But I have learned that's probably like my inclination, but I think it's something that I've learned, I've developed through to be able to just accept things how they are and not feel like I have to like really tear things apart anymore. I definitely have so big reason why I'm turning to Orthodoxy is because of the action of trust, of actually trusting. Because I always think about the verse in Hebrews 11 that that faith is the evidence of things unseen, or faith, the substance of things hoped for. Faith is the evidence. So faith ends up being the evidence because it is the substance of things hoped for. So there's a substance to faith, and it resides in you when you choose to have it or to trust. And there's a certain level of trust when it comes to Orthodoxy. Like, we're the debaters, but not to win, to understand. Yeah, fasting. Yeah, not to win, but because understanding is winning. I mean, that's the point, right? And the claims of Orthodoxy obviously are so substantiated that it's, for me, completely irrefutable. But it doesn't matter how irrefutable it is. You could see it all the time in these debates, like with Jim Bob when he's talking to people, or Jay, how much they have to, no matter how much everything's been refuted, they have to take the step to actually accept and receive, yes, this is the case. There's nowhere else to go. Papists, I mean, think about the Papists, just how incredibly screwed their whole system is. Eric Ibarra, famously now for me, in my last talk with him, it was just amazing because I didn't pressure him. I didn't put any pressure on him whatsoever. You know, I'm just like, yeah, dude, cool. You want to talk to me? I'm a nobody because you won't talk to Jay or Ubi. The whole point of that, me hanging out with Eric Ibarra, was to demonstrate that he has yet to do a review with Ubi that he explained and confirmed on the actual debate that he wanted to review and go over the discussion. Instead of doing that, he comes and talks to me, which is just on its face a clear demonstration of how their whole view is completely untenable. They can't do it. but they can't bring themselves to actually trust. And this is why they can't bring themselves to actually trust the case that they are wrong. And it takes humility. I sometimes say to my friends that you have to actually pause and consider you could be wrong, or you cannot see it even if you are. Yeah, exactly. And that really is, that's the fear of God, you know. The fear of God is coming to the end of yourself to realize, no, there's no other power. And that power is immense. It has the power to generate everything out of nothing, and in an instant could take everything back to the nothing again if he wanted to, just without it anyway. And the fact that he doesn't is a sheer sign of his grace and love. So, but yeah, so when my mom started going back to church again, or for the first time ever, she was like in these like programs that were kind of helping her emotionally. So this is a good place that things kind of start, because there's an overlap for me with the psychiatry end of things and like mental therapy and then spirituality and faith, and how those things kind of like end up overlapping. And that's a totally evangelical fundamentalist thing. And so there was an association for that with me, because we were coming out of this really toxic situation with my stepdad. And now we're trying to get our lives together. My mom's trying to go out on her own and actually, you know, be a single mom. Something that I think she was totally petrified to do, but she did it. I mean, my mom legit had balls of steel. She made some mistakes, and she's paying for them. And I think I really do think that in her heart, she is sincerely repentant of the choices that she made. I think she knows. I don't like dragging her over, you know, her poor choices, because I love her so much and want her just to be happy and to receive the peace that comes from repentance, really. And but so that time, that was the moment of transition, and she was going to like Al-Anon, and there was like the higher power teaching there. So vague God, but then over time that kind of got clarified as we took the faith more seriously. Foursquare church that we were going to because she was invited by a friend that they had some kind of like program that was it was called New Images by Dr. Theo Vaughn. Let's see if he's out there. I think I looked him up before. Dr. Theo Vaughn. New Images. No, all that comes up is that Theo Vaughn. So I did know a Dr. Theo Vaughn, not this Theo Vaughn. I just realized that his name's Theo Vaughn too. But hey, but the Theo Vaughn is doing a Bible study with Morgan Wallen. Who the hell is Morgan Wallen? Anyway, so Theo, or is it Theo Marvin? Maybe it's Theo Marvin. Maybe I am totally getting confused. Oh, that's not him. Anyway, so yeah, the Foursquare Church in Gresham was where that was going down at, and it was like help my mom, you know, process her life. Now she's being a single mom. She's getting out of this toxic relationship. She's getting her life together. we're all kids. I'm 11 years old, and I was definitely affected by her relationship with that guy, and it's a weird moment for me to process and look back on. I kind of, it's definitely one of those memories where you try to shove it out and pretend like it didn't happen, and you just move on. And I'm definitely at that age now where I'm just like, whatever happened, I don't care anymore, And but I learned a lot about God there. There was a few sayings that I learned of. God's a 10, I'm a 5, and so are you. God's perfect. You're not the worst thing in the world, but you're not God. You're just you, and God made you good enough, and so are you. You're a 5 also. You're not God. I don't have to bow down to you, but you're also not shit, so I don't need to disrespect you or anything. We're just people made in God's image, and dealt with hell a little bit. So I ended up going to these classes, and I was the only kid there, and I was really into whales. Yeah, it's totally spiritually mid. Yeah, spiritually mid. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of really healing things though there for us, and it gave us a lot of hope that there was a way forward and we were going to be okay. We ended up getting baptized. I was baptized in 1996. It was a big church, the Foursquare church in Gresham. And which I think is shrunk now. But anyway, East Hill Foursquare is what it's called. And I got baptized. So at the time my mom was actually going through that transition, I was not going to take this stuff seriously. I was a total cynic. I was like, what is going on? What are you guys doing? My sister was deep, and she loved singing the song. She was just a kid, but I was always really hard on her. She was just this annoying little girl that I had to deal with, and she's my sister, I guess. Oh man, I was not nice to my little sister. Not. And she needed it. She needed love, and I did not give it to her. And it was unfortunate. I was a little turd. She needed a big brother. She looked up to me so much. I was so mean. But I was angry. I was a really angry kid. Not having my dad, I was really angry. I was angry and very hateful, especially going through things that my mom took me through. But it was nice, those years after Kayla, my mom was taking us to church. There was a calm. There was a peace about those years. She would take us on hikes, nature walks. She took us to museums. So then there were 4 of us. It was me, my sister, my 2 sisters, and my youngest brother. And that was our life through the mid 90s. And then all the way through until I graduated high school. But so then we end up moving a couple times. We end up in Newburgh. And that's where we're still going to the Foursquare church. My mom would actually take us from there we would drive to Hillsboro. This is just after the Max station got built. And we would ride the Max from Hillsboro to Gresham. This is in Oregon, by the way. Hillsboro to Gresham every week on Saturday for the Saturday night services. And she never missed one. She was at every single one up until high school. So we were baptized in 96. I graduated in 2003. We stopped going to East Hill around 2001, basically, when it was just too far. It was untenable. We moved to McMinnville. And so then we started going to a Covenant church there. So whatever covenant theology is, or whatever covenant church theology is. I don't know. I don't know if that's covenant theology. Let's look it up. Covenant church. Theology. History. So it is covenant theology. Reformation thinkers like Calvin and Bullinger formalized 17th century figures like Johannes Boethius and Westminster Divines. So I guess more Reformed. I wouldn't know, because what parish do I go to? St. George's. Right now I'm going to Holy Resurrection, Salem. And for now, I mean, like, that's just the closest one. I don't know how it is. I haven't even really gone. I've only gone to one divine liturgy. This is all right now. I got through the last month and a half. They had me teaching the book of Acts at the Free Methodist Church that I'm at, and but halfway through that, I was just too convicted. I couldn't do it anymore. It was too clear in the book of Acts what I was studying, how concrete the evidence is of the unity of the table, that it's at the table of the Eucharist where the unity is, and the teaching of the apostles. And it's just like, I can't do this, dude. I can't do this anymore. I can't play pretend. I do love the people there, and I am sad I gotta go, but I'm also overjoyed. I cannot wait. I can't wait to be sealed in the Holy Orthodox Church. I am so looking forward to just being Orthodox and just praying. Like, I only got so deep into all this theological stuff and so deeply read the way that I have just because I felt like everything in Protestantism was so weak and so shallow. And Father Alban West, who received me as assist at that parish. Okay, right on. The guy there, I think, is Father Stephen. I don't know his last name. But I'll look out for him. Alban West. Sounds familiar, actually. I'll be frank. Sounds familiar. Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting people, dude. I'm looking forward to making friends, and even, like I'm not, like, I feel like there's a way that people approach this stuff where different people are just different points in their conversion. I've just been at this for so long that, and I've got such a, I truly love people anyways, for whoever they are, but I also know that, people can be duplicitous, and I'm definitely aware of how antisocial people can be. And so, I'm just happy to repent, I'm happy just to repent. Just the peace that I feel right now, just saying that, I just get goosebumps. Oh, wow. It's overwhelming. It's good. So anyway, I guess this would be my first induction into covenant theology, but there was no theology there at Covenant Church. It was kind of the same cookie cutter stuff that I was already used to with the Foursquare church, but it was so shallow and superficial. My mom couldn't stand it. Like, they never read the Bible. The most theology that I got there was the reciting of the Our Father. That's where I learned the Our Father. That was it. That's all they did. Multnomah University graduate, right on. I've got a friend that went to Multnomah. My friend Jeff. He's a Baptist pastor. Oh, okay, that's switching up. Yeah, he's a young guy there, Father Stephen. So the story is baptized Foursquare. Right now, we're at the story where I'd been going to Foursquare Church for a long time. Well, what I didn't get through was the story of how I was cynical, but I had an experience where one night I did have like a voice telling me, give your heart to me and everything will be okay. So it was like a voice. And that was it for me. I was like, this is Jesus. He's asking me to accept him into his heart. Or he's telling me that I can accept him into his heart and everything would be fine. Because I resisted it and I thought it was stupid. And I made fun of my sister. That's the thing. I was so mean to my sister. And I love her now. She's my precious sister. And I'll do anything for her. My mom told me that I would too. She was all like, you guys are going to be best friends when you're older. I don't know about best friends, but I love my sister. And so I had that experience and I was like, whoa, okay, wow, this must be real. Like this Jesus thing must be real deal. So I did. I was like, okay, I guess everything's going to be fine now. And that was the beginning. It started from there. And then I was like, I told my, so the church that I was going to at the time, that the East Hill Foursquare church, they had like a Saturday night thing, and I would go to like the church. It was like the youth group church, or like the kids church. And by that time I had graduated. So I started going when I was like the 5th grade. And then I ended up graduating out to like the middle school age. But I was still like to talk to my first teacher there. His name was David. And he encouraged me to get baptized. And, he said, you should get baptized. And he gave me a journal that I kept. I still have, I think, to this day. Annunciation Milwaukee. I've heard a lot. They talk about it, dude. That's not the first time I heard about that place. Yep. I'll have to get up there. Yeah. I mean, getting to Portland, man, is real. I'm out in the boondocks. I'm out in just out. I'm between Salem and Lincoln City. Just mountain place, Sheridan, if you don't know where that is. But yeah. So anyway, I get baptized, and I'm keeping this journal, and it's a prayer journal, and I had been developing like through these programs, like a sense of the idea of God talking to me, and I have a relationship with God, and he tells me things, and he says nice things to me, and the voices that come to me that are encouraging and uplifting, those are from God, and those that are not uplifting and encouraging, well, those are the voices of Satan. And which I had a lot of inner dialogue, being an inquisitive, wondering person who wondered about so much in the world. I had a really strong inner dialogue, and I did have a lot of anger being without a father, and being so tortured by that, and wanting my dad so bad, and having early memories of my dad that I vaguely recall, but he was not there. Tortured me. And it wasn't until I developed that kind of prayer life that I began to sense and feel God as my father, and he was. You think like people worry so much about like salvation outside the church, and then there's the understanding that like, well, you can be grafted into the church through supernatural means. And I like to think that maybe I was, whatever. All I know is that all of that led me to this point right now. These are just the seeds that kind of guided me along the way. So like a heavy prayer life, but then as time went on, there was like this other side that I wasn't really aware of, this whole idea. There's this thing called the Bible. And maybe I knew about the Bible. I had a Bible. I remember trying to read the Bible that I had, which was the New Testament, Gideon, New Testament Psalms, that I'd been given by my Aunt Kathy again. My Aunt Kathy is definitely a pillar in my life with these things. And we would have like spiritual discussions, theological discussions, very critical of Catholicism. We were Irish, and we are Irish. but none of us were Catholic, and we understood that like being Irish means being Catholic, but we were Northern Irish, so we were Protestant Scots, really. Scots Irish. We are descended from the Scots Irish that came and settled in Tennessee in the 18th century. It came from Northern Ireland. So, Protestantism, really thick in the blood there, and it was always just so like gimmicky. The whole idea of papism and Roman Catholicism, and can't you just be cool and go to church and read the Bible or whatever? Or why even bother? Religion is a crutch. It's all stupid. But yeah, so then I have this experience and I decided to get baptized, and I developed this spiritual prayer life. And that's when I started to say, like, okay, the music sucks. That's what I was most concerned about. This music sucks. And then as time went on, learned that like the Bible is important, and that it says things about how you're supposed to live your life and how church is supposed to operate and what your place is in the church, and sin and what sin is and how you're supposed to avoid sin, and you're supposed to be righteous. And so that was the beginnings of my life as a Pharisee, of being just, okay, we're reading the Bible. That's when we went to Calvary Chapel. They read the Bible there. They teach the Bible word for word, line by line, and they go chapter by chapter, verse by verse, and they read the darn Bible. You know it. You dang usurpers. Okay, Calvary Chapel. So that ends up going on to my next phase of, now we were in McMinnville, and in McMinnville, Calvary Chapel, I learned a lot of the Bible, studied the Bible like crazy. We were doing Bible studies every morning. My friends were going through, and I were getting up at 6 a.m. to get to the local coffee shop to read the Bible every day before school. This was my high school years. And, but all the time I'm thinking like, this music could be better. This music sucks. It could be better. And I developed my life as a musician. So that's where the things kind of overlap for me, because as I'm converting to Christianity, becoming Christian, becoming more devoted as a Christian, that's when I started to develop, and I learned guitar, I learned drums. At that time I was in percussion, in the band in middle school, right at the time as I was getting baptized, learning percussion. That only lasted 1 year, but I was still obsessed with music, and that's when I got into video production. That's what I ended up doing the rest of middle school. 2 years that I had there, did video production class, which was awesome. But then I found my mom's guitar in the closet, started learning guitar, and I was obsessed with like Nirvana and Silverchair and who else was Pearl Jam and Soundgarden, and then it turned into heavier and heavier stuff as time went on. And at the Foursquare church, if you learned Bible verses, you could earn prizes, and one of them I got was like this compilation CD of a bunch of awesome Christian bands. Oh yeah, and then at that same time, so before we ended up moving to Newbury, before we actually ended up getting baptized, I was my friend got the DC Talk CD, Jesus Freak, and we jammed that so hard. And what would people think if people me a freak? And I was like, yeah, man, this is my jam. And you know what? I'm into Jesus now. Jesus is all right with me. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm looking for Jesus and everything. Looking for Jesus in Nirvana lyrics, I'm so happy 'cause today I found my friends. 'Cause today when I found God. And I was like, oh, dude, he found God, man. That's great. I can dig this. I'm cool with God too now. Found God. Righteous, bro. So I ended up playing the guitar in the worship band at Calvary Chapel. And that's when I'm like, great, I can make this music good. Now I can make it good. Playing guitar. They loved me at the Covenant Church before that, because when I first got my guitar, I was still going to Covenant Church, my first guitar. They loved what I was doing. They thought I was doing so good. And I thought I was like, yeah, dude, I'm bringing something new and fresh. And then end up at Calvary Chapel, end up kind of walking through the same thing. But, you know, in the process, I'm getting more and more like, it's got to be like this. The Bible says this. And to the point where I'm kicking people off of worship teams because of some rumors that I had heard, you know, that were going around about sin. We're putting the stamp on sin. Sending it out of here. You're not going to sing no songs. You've been sinning. And that was the beginning also of just learning about certain pet theological issues. I didn't know that like dispensationalism or the rapture was a problem. No idea. Like, I just thought this is what's in the Bible. If the Bible says it, I believe it. I didn't know. I only knew that the real problem with the papacy was the papacy. That's all I knew. It's like, this is whack. These people don't even know Christ. Like, they don't even know. Every man his own pope, policing your brothers and sisters. Been there. Big oof. Yeah. Yep. To the point that I still have strained relationships with my brothers and sisters. I have sisters that hardly talk to me, and they're very strained by my approach from those years. But I had one sister that did kind of go off the rails in a weird way, and I mean, it broke my heart at the time. But, you know, I've a big brother, single mom. I gotta put the hammer down, you know, no sin here. None of that. We're following Jesus. Jesus says you should hate your brother and your sister if you're going to follow him. So I'm going to hate my sister. I'm going to be hella good at it. And I did. I walked out of her wedding, dude. I humiliated her at her own wedding. That's because I really didn't. Anyway, I don't want to go into that. But, so at that time, though, that's where I started to learn about different theological issues. But I didn't know anything about the splits. I just knew I didn't like Calvinism. I didn't like predestination. That whole thing was stupid. And that, toward the end of high school, as I'm graduating, I'm starting a Christian band. I'm getting into this band with my buddy John Marr, by the way. For those of you who don't know, I am trying to help out my friend and his family. He's got a Down syndrome daughter who has been struggling for a while in and out of hospitals, and he's been ripped off by some scandalous people. And I've left a link in the comments. If you know anybody that can support or whatever, at least just share the link, get the word out. But this is Faith. So this is the guy that I was in the band with at that time. This is my Calvary Chapel crew. The drummer was a guy I knew in the youth group at Calvary Chapel. John Marr was teaching at a Bible school called Berean School of the Bible, and that's where I met a bunch of my friends. And then we had a bass player come up to go to the school and attend the school, and it was overseen by a guy named Steve Gregg. He was the founder of this school, so I got to know Steve Gregg. If you don't know who he is, he's kind of a bigwig in the Protestant world. Wrote a book called The Four Views of Revelation or something. And I just got a hold of a friend from that time who has footage of a concert that we did. It was a battle of the bands at the high school, and they tried to. Is there a post on Twitter? Yeah, it should be my top my pinned post there on Twitter. Let me take a look here. See if it's still the pinned post. Yeah, it's the pinned post on my X. That's good underscore God underscore Father X on X. Who we got over here? We got over here. I can't follow any more people, by the way. I've maxed out. I've got to figure out who I got to unfollow. I got to go through my list, but it's just like, why do they max out on follows? I don't understand that. So yeah. It's not. How's the sound out there? Are you able to hear some music? Wait, is there music playing in the background? No, there isn't. Is there? Here, I'm gonna skip to the next track. Oh no, yeah, okay. Okay, it is playing. Should be playing now. Let me know if you hear it.
No, I'm just kidding. He is too. It's just different. My man and I are tight as two people can be. See, I'll ride for my man, and I know he'll ride for me. We be down like 4 flat tires, and every time I see him, man.
Oh, this is my friend Danielle. Okay, cool. Let's see if that is gonna keep playing when I go back over here.
I got saved. And as much as I love my man, it seemed like, oh, hell just broke loose. Now when the Lord wakes me up in the morning to pray and
Hit this. I'm trying to.
come through the door kicking like, who you in here talking? Who you talking to? Like I'm having some kind
So, yeah, where is everyone? Yeah, where is everyone else? Right?
of damn, but like I said before, I can't help it. I'm torn between two lovers and
Well, I'm saying.
because now that I'm saved, I no longer want to live in sin. Once I gave my life to Jesus,
We got what's going on up in here. I've got a cool story. Listen to my story. All right. So yeah, so playing in a band, lead singer of the band is in is teaching at this Bible school overseen by a prolific Protestant author, Steve Craig. And this is where I get really deep into this is actually where I started reading Greg Boyd, because that band kind of breaks up, but there's a dude in town that was going to the Bible school, and his dad was really involved in the whole open theology stuff, or like really read into it and read a lot of Steve Craig, and that's where I first learned about him and about the concept of open theism. Let's see here. Am I still working? Yeah. And I'm learning a lot about that. I'm reading all the books, and things go sour with my relationship with my mom. I get married, I have a kid, and I can no longer really function at Calvary Chapel with my mom because our relationship had turned so toxic. And so I end up going to a Reformed church that's like non-denominational, just kind of like whatever poster board sign out there. And when I'm going there, thanks for the retweet, Thaddeus, bro. Thank you. Thanks for hanging out today, dude. So at this Reformed church, we end up having kind of like a man cave hangout where we sit around and talk Bible and theology, and we're going over things in the and that's where I first kind of get deeper into the issue of Tulip and where the details kind of play out with, you know, how things are done. And it's over the course of my time that I just become more and more disillusioned with church. I believe less and less in church in the way that it has been like preserved or exercised or whatever, and it's all very I get very jaded. But that's when I started, oh, okay, now that I get I'm tired of this. I'm gonna just start my own thing. And that's when I start my own thing. And I invite a bunch of people over to my house for a weekly meal on Mondays. And I'm not trying to pull anybody out of the church. I'm just trying to do something that is like, okay, this is the organic church that I've imagined in my head is the real church. This is the way that the apostles did it. And it's the way that it's supposed to be done. And it's just, you bring your friends over, you eat some food. And we actually had like our own, like, you know, communion table and with real wine. Okay. It's not just a grape juice. It's real wine. That's how you know we're legit. Okay. We didn't bother with that fake grape juice crap. We're drinking real wine, okay? And it was good. Like, there was a lot that was really good about it, but that ends up being the beginning of the fall for me. Because things get out of control, as they're wont to do when you're just making stuff up as you go along. And the only historical reference that you have for any of these things is your own imagination. Because you get so jaded with the way that everything else is that you're just like, well, they all just made it up. They all just made this up, dude. None of this stuff is exactly how it looks in the Bible. I'm reading the text right here. It says here in Acts, what does it say? I read it in Acts. It's in chapter 2. It says, and all the believers were together and had all things in common. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe, and many wonders and signs were taking place through the apostles. And all the believers were together and had all things in common. Well, we got to have all things in common, dude. We got to have all things in common. So we got to work that out. We're not having all things in common. Not with everybody. You know, we just go to church and do our church thing, and then we go back home and we don't have any relationships. I don't share anything with anybody, right? Day by day, continuing with one mind in the temple and breaking bread from house to house. There you go. We're breaking bread house to house. They were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people, and the Lord was adding to their number. Day by day, those being saved. The part that was missing was devoting themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship. As far as we were concerned, we were sharing the apostles, devoting ourselves to the apostles' teaching by reading the scriptures, because that's the apostles' teaching. The scriptures alone, right? Like, Bible alone. Oh, thank you, Betsy Roberts. So, as time goes on, I start to get more and more suspicious of not the scriptures. I never doubted the scriptures, but I doubted the church's assessment of those things, those texts that were not considered scripture. And I had embraced the concept that all scripture was inspired. Graphos is the word. All scripture is inspired. Paul says all graphos is inspired, God breathed, etc., etc. So what's that mean? That means Gospel of Thomas. That means Gospel of Philip. That means the Bhagavad Gita. That means the Quran. That means... so it turns into a very syncretistic thing. Well, it didn't really... Well, yeah, no, it became pretty syncretistic. And we started to we were having everybody and their mother coming to my house on Monday nights, just to hang out, and we would pack the place out and have a meal, and we'd do a little bit of chit chat about some Bible stuff, here and there. But it was kind of like whatever. But did anybody take it all that seriously, really? Like what was being said or what was being shared? No. The whole this is the band I was in, by the way. This is Joshua Fire, and so then people end up just doing kind of whatever they want, of course, and it just turned into kind of like a big party, and a lot of compromises were made, and basically a lot of things happened that should never have happened, because there was no guidance, there was no authority. A lot of it was based on personal revelation. A lot of people are having these experiences. So one concept comes to the table. Well, we're all Jesus Christ. We're the body of Christ. We're all Jesus Christ. So everyone is Jesus Christ. And there were a lot of, you got the prayer of St. Patrick that kind of lends itself to this concept. But so it ends up kind of merging with so we're thinking more and more, everything's all connected. Basically all religions are kind of trying to teach the same thing. There's a certain, divine revelation inside of all these religions. Nobody believes anything just because, it's not true 100%. There's some truth there. So there's truth to be found out. There's truth to be found in these other religions. Kind of a very papist model, really. Like, we would have been very okay with Vatican I teaching. That would have made sense to me at that time. Because my eschatology had turned into, okay, well, this is what the end of the world, this is what the return of Jesus Christ means. The return of Jesus Christ is when we all realize that we're all Jesus Christ. And that's the gospel. And that's actually the moment that I saw the overlap with Orthodoxy. I didn't put it all together. At the time, before then, when I was at Calvary Chapel, I was I was the worship leader guy, and I was actually on the payroll. And my pastor actually sent me down to Costa Mesa, Calvary Chapel, Costa Mesa, the Bible College campus, where they had a worship leader conference, and I was supposed to learn all about worship and, how to do it right and how it's supposed to be. And my pastor really encouraged me to take it really seriously, and I did. And I remember going, and I learned some like singing techniques, maybe, or like arrangement techniques, but it was nothing that was like, it was a lot of things that kind of came naturally to me as a musician. And I don't know what it is about music, something that I just get it. doesn't come packaged with a whole lot of explanation, but I did spend a lot of time, articulating a lot of things and trying to explain things. Why do I like certain things a certain way? Why do I like the certain lyrics of a certain song? And why do I like certain guitar tones or wherever? But oh my God, I do not want to see stuff like that. Sometimes the things people post, that's why you got to be careful on the internet, people. Some lady getting sucked into some freaking portal. It's weird. We got ICE carrying out full-scale raids at group homes full of illegals near Minneapolis. So there you go. You got me distracted on the news cycle. Over on X. So when I finally came across Orthodoxy, all these things kind of blend together, because Calvary Chapel, I'm learning about the Bible, I'm learning about worship, and I'm looking back in time, and I'm looking for patterns of how worship was the way that it was. And as at that time, I go on a mission trip with Calvary Chapel to Russia, in Perm, Russia. My friend was doing a church plant there and went through Moscow. On the way back, stayed in the Red Square for a day, and they were having a service at what's called the Kazan Cathedral. And that's really my first take. I mean, I knew that Orthodox Church was the Russian Orthodox Church, the Russian side. I didn't quite understand it. I didn't know the difference, Greek Orthodox, Russian Orthodox. I didn't know there was a Russian Orthodox. As far as I'm concerned, Russian Orthodox was Greek Orthodox. Just like all these terms that were all messed up. And perceptions, it didn't matter to me because it was still like all gimmick, like whatever. I don't know why you guys do the weird hats and stuff, dude. Y'all have fun with that. We're over here, we got rock songs, we got rock worship, I got a rock and roll guitar. You want what I got, dude. You guys are just trapped by religion. Religion would allow you to play a rock guitar in a worship service, dude. It's in the Psalms right there, buddy. Says it right there. Clanging cymbals. Prophesy. Let's see here. Wait, wrong one. Blue letter. First Chronicles 25. This is a big reason why I actually didn't become Orthodox, was because of this Bible verse. My first service I went to, I hated so much I prayed it would end. 2 years later, I was Orthodox. Great. Awesome. Glory to God. Let's see here. So after I saw this service in the Red Square, Kazan Cathedral, I was like, okay. That artwork was amazing. I was like, I could do without all this stuff, you know, like I don't need to do anything with this, you know, because after all it says here, David and the commanders of the army set apart for the service of some of the sons of Asaph, Eman and Jeduthun, who were to prophesy with lyres, harps, and cymbals. And the number of those who performed the service was, and it goes on. The number of those people was like, clearly they don't have cymbals in their service. They don't have that right. They've totally distorted that. Clearly they're not to be trusted either. So like I had this case mounting, like no one can be trusted. The faceless gone on the earth. Nobody's prophesying with lyres, harps, and cymbals except us more Pentecostal types. We're doing it the right way. Those are religious Pharisees, those darn Orthodox. But I like their artwork, and I think there's something to the art. It was too penetrating for me to ignore. I just couldn't get it out of my head. It was so palpable and impactful. Let's see. I'm not looking for that stuff. I'm looking for the cross references. I feel like there's a psalm or something. Isn't there a psalm? Prophesy with? No. This is 1 Corinthians. Fascinating. I wonder what now I want to know what the word is. 2 Kings. Now bring me a musician. And it came about when the musician played that the hand of the Lord came upon him. Okay, so that's not it. Anyway, so because I didn't see these kind of things happening, I was like, okay, there's a right way to do this. And it can be stylistic, and I can have a rock and roll church. I can make big, awesome, thundering rock and roll sounds. In fact, I can just make my band a church service. And there's a sense where, like that was kind of the mentality and the approach going into this project in a way, but it was just because I just wanted to be authentic. I wanted to get rid of the issue of Christian rock, secular rock, church service, worship. I just didn't want to worry about any of those compartments, and I just wanted to be one operation where I could just be myself, and I could talk about the issues that I want, and I get theological, and I could make the parallels that I've seen and experienced in my studies of the overlap of worship, theology, music, Christianity, because it's really the way music develops in the West is a result of the act of making music to God, and I wanted to adhere to that and respect that. But as Orthodoxy entered the scene in iconography, and I wanted to study more deeply into the iconography, that's when I looked into the issue of icons and the veneration and the communion of the saints. And at that time, that's when I was kind of in this like syncretistic mindset of like, I never bought into like, what's it called? Where you're born over and over and over again. Where you die and then you come back and you're, this is what the Hindus are all about. What do they call that? In the chat, what do they call that? Never bought into it. I always held on to the idea that I never let go of the concept that yes, we are all Jesus Christ, but Jesus Christ also is one individual man named Jesus of Nazareth, who was a man who did live, did die, did rise, did ascend to the right hand of the Father, who is God, who is in whom all the fullness of the Godhead dwelled. Like, I knew those verses. I knew I had a pretty strong Christological framing there. I never went full New Age. I never went full Gnostic. I did look. There were some things that I appreciated about some of the Gnostic texts. Like the one thing there's an idea that I do appreciate in the Gospel of Philip, that the one who goes down into the water, when they come up out of the water and they're given the name of Christ, it's given to them on loan. And at the end of at the judgment, when their life is over, it will be required of them. What did you do with the name of Christ? you're going to have to give that name back eventually and to the person that it belongs to. So that, that verse even kind of centered me on Christ, the figure, the person. And I still had the idea that all these different, I definitely had the idea that Christianity was the supreme religion. And I had the idea that, but it was still that invisible church concept of all the world is the church. All the different churches are still the one true church. Even those that are, maybe they don't have authentic faith or whatever, they're still acting out their faith by going to a church, even if it's something that they don't really, exercise 100% or something, like not true believers. I mean, like, okay, you're still even part of the body, but then even that extends outside of those institutions. Well, like, oh, okay, Christ is in the truth of these ideas. Christ, who is the way, the truth, the life. That means anything that's true is Christ. And that if there's truth in these other religions, that's the way that Christ is seated inside of them, in the sense that there's parts that are true or whatever. And so that all is the body of Christ, and all the different separations of the churches. Well, those are like cell divisions in the womb, and all of creation is groaning for the revelation of the sons of God, and that's all of humanity, right? But there was no concept that like orthodoxy things, that there's a correct. Like the orthodoxy in the way that I understood it at that time is just like a broad sense orthodox. What is really true? It can't be the Orthodox Church because they blew it. They've got something wrong. There's something that they don't have or they don't understand. They're just not as enlightened as us over here, who are really exploring the furthest extents, the outer reaches of spiritual demands. They'll never get to the hippies. They'll never get to these psychedelic warriors. It's so ironic, dude. There's so many people in the Orthodox world, like, that are streamers that have a history in the psychedelic world. You got David Patrick, is it Henry or Harry? David Patrick something. Henry. DPH. Jay Dyer had a spell with all of that. I think there's somebody else too. I can't think of who. But it's just so funny how, like, there is a real overlap there. And I remember seeing the logo for the Church of the Eternal Logos and thinking, like, what is some hippie new age cult stream doing Christ consciousness stuff? So, but when I fell into all that, that's when I stopped going to a real church. Ironically. And, we were building the real church, and we were going to do it through our love for our friends and giving up on the world and paying each other's debts and working together as a body, as a single unit, and doing this and doing that. And we don't need to take the Bible seriously. We don't need to take the claims of, did Jesus rise from the dead or not? That doesn't matter. That's just kind of details. The resurrection's here. It's now. It's us. We are the resurrection. Because we say so. We don't have to have any connection to any living tradition, because all that's made up. That's all just like an illusion that people use to entertain themselves. It could never be. No way this could be verifiably accurate. Well, the place that all went down at was at a farm that burned to the ground, and I lost my dog, I lost my studio, I lost my memories, I lost hard drives of my kids being born. I lost videotapes. I lost all my friends. Everybody looked, I was a total failure. It was a total failure. There there were so many ways that we compromised our integrity and our dignity because we'd entertained some ideas that on the basis of, oh, well, there is no right or wrong. Those who delight in the Lord, he will give you the desires of your heart. So what are the desires of your heart? Well, those must come from the Lord. So if you got a desire, there can't be anything wrong. Is it hurting anybody? Is it, in fact, is doing this thing, oh, that's only increasing the love of your neighbor. So how could that be bad? Not understanding, because there's a side of this I don't really want to get into because it's way too personal. So, but it's really, I'll probably get to it like maybe someday. It's just all too painful, and I'm, as I'm still processing and gonna be working a lot of things through with whoever the clergy is that I'll be engaged with. I've just been going to like a couple of fellowships here and there, but been reading the Fathers for a long time. Started reading the Fathers, just in that spell, just as we were starting up our home fellowship group, because I'm trying to trace all the steps, right? And along the way, I end up like, for a moment, looking at, oh, well, the Gospels were actually written in Hebrew. And here it says in the Fathers that the Gospels were in Hebrew. And that's when I developed my relationship with the Hebrew Roots movement. Michael Rood on Shabbat Night Live. He's got all the hot takes. He'll take you on a tour of Israel. Yours today. Just buy my little candlestick. I got nothing. Obviously a heretical group. Obviously totally off the rails. But there's some good stuff. I mean, I think there's some things that come along that are okay to entertain in terms of like questions. Like John 6:4. And a lot of people had a lot of blowback about it. I don't see what the big deal is myself. I think it's fine if like it's true. And it seems to be the case that it's true. I don't think that means it's got to undermine all of Orthodox Christian heritage. But if John 6:4 is not originally in the text, if that's not what John wrote down, then it needs to be ignored. It's okay if the ministry of Jesus was only 1 year. That's okay. I mean, it works on a liturgical sense. I mean, half the reason why I totally bought into the liturgy is the patterns of it that I recognize that Michael Rood was talking about. I saw the overlap of the feasts and seasons. Reincarnation, that's the one. A little slow. These chats must be coming in slow, bro. So anyway, reincarnation. Never bought into that. I always bought into resurrection, physical resurrection from the dead. I was just convinced that we were living in the generation. It could still be the case. I don't know. That's personal, individual divine revelation type stuff. Like where, oh, I think it is the end times, and we are the resurrection, and we're going to be the last generation to live. We're not going to have to suffer death. I literally thought that. And, maybe I'm right. Maybe that's the case. It just doesn't matter to me, because I suspend all belief, all disbelief, whatever, and trust myself entirely to the church, to the Theotokos, and Jesus Christ. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. But so that the liturgical patterns, that's where I started to see the overlap of, oh, okay. It reminded me, because I would listen to a bunch of Thomas Hopko. I listened to the entire Worship in Spirit and Truth series. I listened to, there's a couple of them. Okay. I guess. Speaking the Truth in Love. I listened to all of the Speaking Truth of God in Love. The Names of Jesus. I think I got through that because it was really short. So I listened to tons of Father Tom. Father Tom. Was he Archbishop Emeritus? Or something? He was an Archpriest or whatever. But that's where I learned about bishops. I should re-listen to that whole series again. And he was going through the canons of the councils. I think that was in the Worship in Spirit and Truth podcast. No, this is where he's going through the Divine Liturgy and breaking everything down. Anyway. I started to see recognize those patterns, and it kind of clicked for me the way that Michael Rood was talking about how these are holy convocations and like divine rehearsals where you're walking through the process of uniting your life in the Godhead and basically participating in and that's where Orthodoxy just kind of like really poured in and answered all of that, of the life of the church, of the life of the Christian, of the relationship with Christ, and divine energies, and being in sync with God, showing up on time, being in sync with his rhythm. And I immediately saw how that paralleled to the Orthodox hours of the divine offices. But I still didn't go all in on Orthodoxy because I still thought I could like hang on to, I don't know, the differences, or I thought it would get either that, or I thought it was going to be too hard to become Orthodox, or that they would never accept me in the church, or they'll just kick me out anyway, so might as well just stay out and maintain that God had put a prophetic purpose on me to be a heretic and just be outside the church and be like Gabriel, fool for Christ. Saint Gabriel, pray for us. And so that was an issue. But also after the farm burned down, I was just so broken and lost and aloof, and alone. And my wife was pregnant with our second child. And that's when I decided I was going to go back into playing music again. That's when I started the Good Godfather project. Accumulation of like my studies and kind of working out my studies and continuing to be creative and continuing to make music. Something that I looked at as being a part of what value God had put in my life for the world. Something I knew that I could offer to the rest of the world and offer to God, because he gave me these talents and I can't waste them. I've got to work them out. I can't keep them in myself. Not in a proud or arrogant way, but just in a way that says like, no, my ability to play guitar doesn't come from me. I didn't come up with it. It's just something that came out of me. from inside. So clearly that comes from God. That's not mine. It doesn't belong to me. It has to go out. Whether people like it or not, I don't know. I just know that I like it. And so I'm going to do that. And can't not do that, because what else am I going to do? I put so much time and, like spent cost or sunken costs. I've sunk so much cost into this life as a musician. And it's something that's so intrinsically tied to my faith that it's not something I can just like let go of. So just figured I'd keep getting better at it and keep developing and keep trying to adapt and just work everything out day by day and do the things that are available to do for me every day, day by day, and just live out my life however I can. And pray to God that, he's going to take care of me. And never doubted ever God's like presence in my life. So many ways, so many times throughout my life, I just felt nothing but God's presence and favor and his love, and never felt out of relationship. He was always just kind of gently nudging me or redirecting me or just waiting for me to see if I would figure things out or not. I think something along those lines. But no doubt in my mind as to my relationship with God as being my Father. So, and there's only one religion where God is, your Father in a real personal way like this. So it's just always made sense to me. So since I had to set everything straight, everybody else had gotten wrong, and I had a bit of a Messiah complex to myself, thinking, that I must be God's anointed. I must be the one that's going to set everything straight. I'm going to get all of these people back on track. We're going to heal all the schisms. I'm going to solve all of the theological riddles out there, and we're just going to do it. We're going to get it. We're going to work it out. Let's get this together. I don't need to worry about what church I'm going to be part of, so I'll be a part of this church over here. Hold on, I gotta be right back. After the barn burned down, my family had just kind of, the failure had sunken in so deep that my wife and I have really just drifted apart, and things in the house were pretty consistently not very warm. It's hard to find much to be proud of. But I was praying through it, and it was in that season that I actually had an experience where I had a dream. I was in this place that looked like kind of a museum. There was a lot of wood. I knew I was in Arizona. I did. And there were like items encased in kind of like a trophy shelf you would have, but like, not necessarily trophies, but valuable items or antiques or meaningful things. Yeah, Father Tom's a bet. He's the GOAT. And as I'm looking around wondering where I am, suddenly I start screaming the words, Elder Ephraim, Elder Ephraim. And then I know that he's over. I know that there's. See, I'm looking at the trophies, and then I turn left, and then I see this kind of portion of the wall move out like a drawer. And yeah, right on, dude. Yeah. Pray for us, Father Tom. And the drawer is moving out. And I'm screaming, Elder Ephraim, Elder Ephraim. And this time I've watched like a bajillion of the harmony videos. And of course, one of them is Saint Iacovos. Yeah, who they get a picture of him and he fills up the whole screen. And I think that's who this is going to be. I have the impression that this is the person I'm gonna see. And Elder Ephraim, I knew his name, I knew about him. I maybe had seen his face very briefly once or twice. I'd known more about Joseph the Hesychast, Elder Joseph, I think, Father Joseph. And but I'm screaming, Elder Ephraim, Elder Ephraim, Elder Ephraim, and the drawer comes all the way out. I'm like looking over here, drawer comes out. He sits up, swings off to the side of the bed, got a big old grin on his face. He turns, looks at me, and he's kind of like laughing. And I'm screaming, Elder Ephraim, like I just watched a dead guy come to life, and it's Elder Ephraim, and it's his face. And there's something kind of, his eyes were kind of dark, but he just was like, he was dead. He was dead, and he had just come back to life. And like, just as a sign to me of the resurrection, he's like, kind of laughing at me. Like, you silly duck. I'm risen from the dead. I don't know exactly everything that it means or anything like that. I just know that that happened. Then I woke up and I was freaking terrified and I was screaming. But I didn't know. I still thought it was Saint Iacovos. And then I had to go look him up, and I looked at his face. And I'm like, that's not him. That's not his face. That's not Elder Ephraim. That's Saint Iacovos. So who's Elder Ephraim? And I look up Elder Ephraim, and I see his face, and boom, right away, I'm like, there he is. Like, that is Elder Ephraim. That's the guy. This guy just rose from the dead in my dream. I didn't know what it meant. I just knew it meant a lot. This is just like, this is 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago that happened. And it was at that time that my wife and I actually wanted to start going back to church, and we started going to start going to Free Methodist Church. And I say, okay, this is the church we're going to. I felt like the Lord led us there, you know. It was like a convenient place for us to go, and it's a good place for us to kind of heal from all the trauma that we'd been through and work on ourselves. And it was good. Like, they were really kind, they were really loving, they were really gentle and compassionate towards us. And my wife got to process a lot there. But all the while, I'm still trying to kind of work out the theology of things. I'm kind of using it as an opportunity to be like, okay, well, maybe there's something in Free Methodism that is going to redeem that. Maybe I'm here for a reason. Maybe I'm here because Free Methodist Church, you know, it has a significant role to play in the future, this future development of what is an imminent arrival of Christ, and how the world's churches are all going to be united. And maybe the Free Methodist Church is going to be a conduit for that, and it's going to be a big, not reformation, but a revival, and Free Methodist Church is going to be part of it. So I'm going to look into the history of Free Methodist Church. Same time I'm dealing with these theological arguments, I have a vision of the Trinity, of the procession of the uncreated God the Father. I'm deep into the filioque discussions. I'm watching a lot of Ubi Petros, learning about the papacy, and that's why I start listening to like a lot of the J. Dyer stuff and the debates, and so I said to myself, okay, so for the record, I am now converting to Orthodoxy. Camera, the world, I'm converting to Orthodoxy because I could not find any argument that could defeat J. Dyer in a debate. When Cleve converted, I said, okay, well, there's something he must not be looking at. Just like a month ago. Okay, I'm gonna find it. Whatever it is, okay, what is it that made you convert, Cleve? And it's all it's that there's nowhere to go, man. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere else to go. And I really saw it when I talked to Eric Ibarra. Eric Ibarra, I want to thank you for helping me make the choice to convert to Orthodoxy. Without you, I don't think I could have had the courage to do so. You're home already?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, sweet. Anyway, watching Eric Ibarra's debate with Ubi and then having them talk to him and having him lie straight to my face. Thank you for lying. Thank you for lying because you showed me that Roman Catholicism cannot ever be an option. It is too corrupt. It is too twisted. It is too weak. So I'm live streaming right now, just FYI. But also because I could not find any way around the argument. Ultimately, and here's the linchpin. The linchpin was the unity of the Eucharist and the table of the body and blood of Christ. I had accepted pretty foundationally the idea that of the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist, in the bread and the wine, but I had still had it from like a Protestant understanding, whatever is by faith, you know. Whoever receives a prophet in the prophet's name receives a prophet's reward, you know. So likewise, whoever rejects a prophet in the prophet's name doesn't get the prophetic reward. which, in Protestant circles means anybody that comes across as a prophet, you just got to receive him as a prophet. There must Muhammad over here, he says he's a prophet. Well, he could be right. So that's it. I found no further tenable room to embrace the concept that being out of communion with the Holy Orthodox Church was going to result in anything good. And not only that, but I couldn't rectify how it was going to be the case that any of the schisms would be solved outside of repentance and turning to the church and being grafted in and being sealed in the church and restoring full communion with the Church of Holy Orthodoxy. I could no longer see any room to accept that that Orthodox Christians abandoned any form of the faith, that forms of worship are totally entrusted to the apostles and their inheritors, those who inherit their authority. And so I'm trusting them. I'm trusting the apostolic heritage of the bishops and clergy of the Holy Orthodox Church. I'm trusting the forms of the divine liturgy as being handed down by the apostles. And I'm trusting in the communion of the saints and the Eucharistic body and blood of Christ. And I'm putting my faith in Christ to deliver on his promise of eternal life to me. Because one thing that I really have seen is that, there's a lot of reward punishment issues when it comes to, salvation, soteriology and theology, both on all sides, don't do this because you'll go to hell. God will send you to hell. Do this because God will save you and send you to heaven, and he's got lots of rewards for you. And then the cynical argument is to say that, oh, well, people being rewarded for doing good things doesn't make you a good person. It just means that you're willing to do good things in order to get a reward, so you're not really good. Likewise, to avoid doing bad things because you're afraid of punishment doesn't make you a good person for avoiding those bad things, because you're really only doing it so that you're still selfish, you see. You're still a problem of self. You are a selfish person. You should neither want rewards nor to avoid punishment, but just to do things simply on the basis of doing them. But that misses the point of who God is. That God is the giver of good gifts. He's a good gift giver. It is part of God's love language to give gifts and for his beloved to be rewarded for their love, because there is joy in it. There's joy, there's peace, there's blessing. So to be truly a God who is a good gift giver, he must have in place the process of rewarding those whom he loves. And so, without which there is no reward, and therefore there is no true love. There's no true exchange of value in a way that enriches a relationship or solidifies that trust. There's a reason that those things are in place. So I'm trusting God in his way and in his pattern and his desire to give good gifts, and I want every good gift. I've had enough of the bad gifts. I've seen how untenable the Protestant model is of their inconsistency with the apostolic heritage and tradition, how everything is funneled through Rome. That's really it. You know, everything in the West is funneled through Rome, and Rome got it wrong. Period. Full stop. Rome got it wrong in 1054. Should never have added the filioque. Anybody who wants to have a relationship with God, you know, I don't see a way around how adding the filioque doesn't interrupt your relationship with God to where what relationship do you have? You can't, because you're only interfacing with some created image that you don't know. I mean, it's all in name only. Papal Protestantism is totally bankrupt, and by extension, so is the rest of Protestantism. All of the charismatic stuff I never really brought into. I never bought into the, like, I might have spoken tongues like once, but I was always really like skeptical of all that. But I have had really moving moments of, you know, where the music has hit me just right, and you get a really impactful, you know, reflection on God and his love for you, and how unstoppable it is. And yes, God loves you no matter what, and his love's eternal, his grace is eternal, and every sin is forgiven. But what it fails to bring into account is the end result. What is God doing it for? What is supposed to happen? Well, what's supposed to happen is Christ is supposed to be formed in us. And there's only one doctrine that supports that, and that's theosis. And so it requires the church and the model of the church that is in place to form Christ in us. And that's in the divine liturgy, in the sacraments, in the sacramental life, catechism. So that's what I want. And I'm going after it with all I got. I'm willing to do anything to get it. And I am not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of all the stupid, petty debates about iconography. Look, all the information's out there. Iconography goes back to the very start. Images in Christianity go back to the very start in their reverence. The veneration of the saints goes back to the very start. None of these things are divorced from the biblical tradition. Don't have a Bible without tradition. And it's just time for orthodoxy. Let the craziness stop. Let the anxiety stop. There's one thing that I do believe very strongly, that yes, there will come a day when the whole world is united under Christ. And that will be because of the grace and the truth of the Holy Orthodox Church, the Holy Apostolic Catholic Orthodox Church. So everybody needs to buckle up, you know, put your feelings aside, stop crying, and just get your behind into the closest apostolic Orthodox Catholic Church today. And I'm gonna fill you in on. I'm gonna update you on my process. I better get some lunch. We'll probably still talk a lot more about this, and we'll talk about how things develop and steps that I'm at. So, yeah, last Sunday is the last Sunday we'll be going to any Protestant church. From now on, I am going to be pursuing Orthodoxy 100% full time, and never looking back, because the search is over. And we'll see how the catechesis process goes. I'm going to ask that I'm baptized. I'm not going to settle for chrismation. I will probably look around. Like, I'll settle for chrismation for a time, but only until I can be baptized. And I'll look around for somebody who will baptize me, because Father Stephen won't. I definitely will find somebody who will, because I want the whole kit and caboodle. I don't want just a little bit. I want a lot of it. All right. That's my story. We got other things going on coming up ahead. I've got some gear videos I'm going to be going over. I got some new gear we're looking at and sampling some songs. Go over to our Patreon. Go support my friend's family and his daughter who is struggling right now. You can check the pinned link in my X. Also, you can go to our website, sign up on the email list at goodgodfather.co. That's .co. If you're somebody who wants to have us out perform at a venue, we want to put together an event, you can set that up here at our booking link. Go to our link tree. Not before you sign up on the email list down here. Check out some of our links that we got to the right. I do a little bit of blogging. I've talked a little bit about some theological steps, and there's probably a lot of things that I didn't really get to. That's okay. I talk about these things often enough. So, yeah, go over there and check out the website, check out the link tree, and then go to, make sure Gumroad's not anywhere on here. Wow, I can't believe it. I don't have Gumroad. Okay. goodgodfather.gumroad.com, patreon.com/goodgodfather. Subscribe on one of the tiers over there. Back.by is a page that, let's see, you can actually pay us in crypto. We can receive crypto. My gosh. And those are the ways you can support us. And check out all the content we got all over the place, everywhere, here and there. I think that's it. Thanks for everybody. Thanks, Thaddeus, for coming and stopping by and chilling with me for a bit. And don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. Check out all the merch at the merch store. Check all the links down in the comment section. And I believe that's it. With that being said, God be with you, and we'll see you later.